In boxing, you'll often hear the saying box smart. Box smart. You'll hear fighters say, oh, in this fight, I got to box smart. You'll hear trainers say it in the corner, box smart, box smart. You see a good example, Anthony Joshua, when he didn't box smart against Andy Ruiz the first time around, he made mistakes. He tried to go and put it on a guy who was still fairly cognizant. He ended up getting countered. He got dropped. He never really recovered from that knockdown in round number 3. And he went on to lose that fight. The second time around when he fought Ruiz, he learned from his mistakes. And what did he do? He boxed smart. And again, you often hear people say that in a boxing sense, but you can use that saying in any aspect of life. I've heard people use it in business sense. They say when it comes to, getting sales, making money, etc., box smart. Box smart. You know what you need to do, box smart. I've heard it several times in my life, just outside of boxing, something's not even related to it. Box smart means basically take care, see what's in front of you, don't do anything stupid, and assess, more so kind of assess the situation you're in. Especially when you're in a boxing ring, it's very hard to do that in a split second, but that's essentially what they mean. Where am I going with this? Well, I like the way that people use it in a business sense, in a sense outside the ring. Anthony Yarde is someone who I've spoken about for many years on this channel. I've rated him very highly. He seems like a good guy. I like what I see with Anthony Yarde. I've said that for a while. He's come back from defeats, like against Sergey Kovalev and Lyndon Arthur. He avenged that loss. Now he's kind of in a situation where he is stagnant beyond belief. And has he boxed smart from a business perspective? Hell to the no. I mean, this is probably the worst time in his career, for a variety of reasons, to be having issues with promoters, being inactive, and missing the gravy train that is the Saudi shows. Because Anthony Yarde last fought in February. He fought on the undercard of Liam Williams versus Hamza Sheeras. It was a scheduled 10 rounder. I think it was co-main event. I forget who it was he fought, but it wasn't anybody special. And then prior to that, he fought on the undercard of Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang too. I can't remember where on the card he was that particular night. But I remember being at the press conference for that fight, and Yarde wasn't present at it. He wasn't present because they still didn't have an opponent the day before the weigh-in. Alright? And this was a guy whose previous fight was against Artur Beterbiev at the OVO. Actually, it was in the OVO as well, same arena, same building complex. And 8 months on, they didn't even have an opponent for him. Now, Yarde has been with Queensberry. I don't know what the situation is with the promotional contracts now and all that stuff. One saying one, the other saying the other. Don't get into that. But at this point, when Frank Warren has that deal with Turki Al-Sheikh, and he is the main guy with Turki Al-Sheikh, he's willing to work with other people, Eddie Hearn, Oscar De La Hoya, Tim Brown, Bob Arum. It is Frank Warren. I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard on the Crawford show last weekend them mention Queensberry a few times. There wasn't even any Queensberry fighters there. Turki is Frank's guy, and vice versa. Yarde would have known that. So surely knowing that and knowing the Saudis' involvement in boxing, he was there. Well, he was with Queensberry for the Fury and Gandhi fight. He wasn't on it, obviously, but he would have known that was happening. He would have been there for the Day of Reckoning card. He would have known that they had other fights in the pipelines, the Fury Usyk fight when it was for February, the Joshua and Gandhi. He would have known that all that's happening in Saudi. So it's only a matter of time before he gets on it. Why would you start having disputes then when your promoter has literally struck gold? Big platform, TNT, over there in Saudi Arabia or in the UK if it's a Saudi show in the UK. You have the potential to fight your domestic rivals like Joshua Buatsi, where money pretty much won't be an issue, you would think. And you walk away from that, or you get into a dispute because you don't... What? Losing me here. The whole Joshua Buatsi situation, the Joshua Buatsi fight's not going to happen. He's fighting Willie Hutchinson on a Saudi show in the UK. Could have been Anthony Yarde. The match from Queensberry 5v5, Willie Hutchinson stepped up to the plate for light heavyweight. He fought and beat Craig Richards very well. Very good performance. That could have been Anthony Yarde. And it could have been him making a lot of money because they got a bonus for winning the show. So he could have got that payday plus a bonus. Yarde, or certainly his team, seem to believe that he is this sort of, big massive draw, this big massive star, and they can go to any network and do this, that and the other. They can't. They just can't, you know. They want the lion's share of the purse against Joshua Buatsi. They want this, they want that. At the end of the day, Anthony Yarde is a good fighter, and look, I will say that he is a very good fighter. I think there's talent there, but he's in his mid-30s now. Every time he stepped up to world level, he's lost. Has he ever even headlined the O2? He's headlined the OVO with the right dance partner, Artur Beterbiev, but has he ever even headlined the O2? And you got to think of it like this. This is in a week where Canelo Alvarez has dug his heels in on Turki Al-Sheikh and basically said, you know, it's kind of my way with these shows, and there's a bit of back and forth there. At the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez is, in my opinion, the biggest star in boxing. He is the man. He is number one. He might not be number one pound for pound. He certainly isn't. But in terms of star, celebrity status, well-known, everything, that is Canelo Alvarez. So he's in a position where he can go to any promoter and say, you know, these are my terms. And they kind of have to bell. But pretty much they kind of do. Like Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum, Frank Warren, if Canelo said, I'll work with you for 2 fights, these are my terms, you're kind of like, okay, fine, fair enough. Yarde, never world champion, never even won a British title. He's not in any situation to go to any network and say, these are my terms, all while there's apparently still fights on your, or a fight on your Queensberry contract. Now he's in the wilderness. We don't know what's happening with Anthony Yarde. We're hearing no talk of any fights. Don't know whether he's coming or going. Missing out on these Saudi shows as well, which is a big problem if you're trying to make it a lot of, if you want to get the most amount of money and then you're missing out on these as well. That's a big problem. And ultimately, the biggest problem for Anthony Yarde is that he was born when 1991, so he's 33, thereabouts. He's not getting any younger. At light heavyweight, you could probably have a little bit longer prime than you could maybe a featherweight, but still, you're in your mid-30s now. You're not getting any younger. It's not like when Anthony Yarde was fighting in 2017, 2018, where we were all kind of getting aware, like, who is this guy from? Anthony Yarde's from Hackney or Ilford. They're both in East London anyway. So who's this guy from East London who, you know, looks absolutely, you know, jacked to high hell, but he can box, he can move, he can punch, he looks good. Well, but he only had 10 amateur fights, so we'll move him along. Okay, fine. We'll watch this journey with, you know, a keen eye. That was 6-7 years ago. He was in his mid-20s then. He's not in his mid-20s anymore. That clock is ticking. And it's all well and good for people in his team like Tunde Ajayi, because Tunde, he's a trainer, he's a manager. He can still manage and train other fighters after Anthony Yarde. If he loses out on Anthony Yarde on big paydays, he could be like, right, well, you know, the next Anthony Yarde's going to come. You know, I'll get one eventually, you know. Anthony Yarde only has one career. And what's he doing with it? You know? Now, some people could be saying, gee, he was never that good anyway. Maybe, no matter who was around the light heavyweight, he could never really have cut it at the top. Maybe, but he showed me that mentally he's got it. Physically, I think he has it. I think with Kovalev, it was just inexperience. Clearly, that inexperience, not just in him, in his team. I think Tunde handled it very inexperiencedly as well. By just saying, you know, empty the tank. You're like, mate, please don't do that. You did, and, you know, you saw what happened. So it's a strange one. Yarde in the wilderness, we're still hearing absolutely zilch from him, which is sad for me because, as I said, I like Anthony Yarde as a person. I like him as a fighter. I think he's a lot to offer the heavyweight division, or sorry, the light heavyweight division. And I'd love to see what he does, but we wait for news, we see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on the whole Anthony Yarde situation in the comments below. Do you have any real sympathy for him and his team to say, well, actually, you know what, gee, they could have stuck with Warren and made money, they want money, well, there you go. They've chose this, it's their own fault. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Peace.